Okay, seeing how it is now 6 o'clock, then I'll go ahead and call the Garnett City Commission meeting for April 28th to order. If you please, I guess I should, before we go into the Pledge of Allegiance, mention that this is a public meeting. If you would like to participate, please click the raise hand button in the participant dialog box, and then we would be happy to have you participate in the meeting. So just if you want to be involved, especially in the citizens to be heard section, or if you have any comments relating to regular business, please feel free to give your input. Okay, so now if you'll stand with me to join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll welcome Chris Getz from the First Christian Church to give the invocation tonight.
Excellent. Let's bow together. Heavenly Father, we just come before you, and we do indeed thank you for the many blessings that we have around us. I'm so grateful that, even with virus going around and the world seeming like it's somewhat falling apart, I know that we all have hope. And I know that there are so many good things that we can draw our attention and our hearts and our minds to. And so tonight, Lord, we just pray that the many folks that are kind of suffering in fear, that they would be able to draw their attention to you, that we would be able to look forward to the things that we are blessed with, because there are so many good things around us. We just thank you, Lord God, for the many, many blessings that you've given us, and we turn to you today in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Chris.
Much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Chris.
Yep.
Hi, item 2, approval of the April 14th City Commission meeting minutes. Commissioner Cole, did you have any questions?
I do not have any questions.
Okay, Commissioner Glenn?
I did not.
Okay, I'll move to approve the April 14th City Commission meeting minutes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 All right, motion passes 3-0. Item 3, citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens who have any comments or questions? I don't see that there are any.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, we just had some people join, so you might give them just a second.
Okay. Sure. So this is the citizens to be heard section, if anyone has any comments or questions. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead, and I don't think that Zachary Barnes is on the call. Is that correct, Chris?
Correct. I haven't heard back from Zach, so I don't anticipate him making it this evening.
Okay, sounds good. So Commissioner Glenn, do you have any comments?
The only thing I had to say, the senior pictures on the 4th Street Avenue is really a neat idea, and I think everybody, especially during this time, and enjoy looking at anything when they're out riding around. So I thought it was a neat idea, and kudos to them. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn. Commissioner Cole.
Well, I'm going to have to echo that, because that was mine too. That was really great on Sunday when I went riding around and I saw all the seniors pictures on 4th Street. So I'm not sure who was responsible for getting those out there, but that's just really great. I know it's been tough for those seniors, so I was excited to see.
All right. Yeah, it was fun to wake up to them putting out those signs. The boys enjoyed watching them put them all up. It's really nice. And they did a good job too. They've withheld the weather so far. So I also wanted to take some time to just thank the street department. I always love whenever they're cleaning the streets. It entertains my boys for at least 20 to 30 minutes watching them go back and forth. The streets look nice, and thank you for the entertainment. So we'll go ahead and move on to regular business. Discussion of letter from Anderson County Development Agency. Chris, I'll go ahead and turn this over to you.
Sure. Ruben Fibern just joined us. Ruben, thank you for joining this evening. And the main reason why I had this item on the agenda was to consider a letter that the Anderson County Development Agency has put forth requesting to be placed on your next agenda, the first meeting in May, to have a more formal discussion. I believe there'll be a larger contingent of board members who plan to attend that meeting and hold a conversation with the governing body regarding the possibility of a land bank for the city of Garnett. So that was really the intent there. And so I plan to place them on the agenda at our next meeting unless you feel as if there is a reason why that should not occur. So, and Ruben, would you have anything that you'd like to add to that? Or I think Cody Gettler is joining us as well. He was planning on making it this evening. He's also on the ACDA board. Ruben?
No, I just would encourage the commissioners to give it a look and see if this is something that could be a tool for the city and economic development to put some of this property back into service, if you will, and make it into something that will put it back on the tax roll.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Gwynn, did you have any comments, or are you okay with moving forward with it being put on the agenda next meeting?
I think I'll just save mine for the next meeting. Hopefully it's in the commission room, but I'll just save my questions for then.
Okay, sounds good. And Commissioner Cole, do you want to move forward with putting it on the agenda next?
I don't have any questions right now, but I definitely want to see it brought to the meeting, to our next meeting, so we can talk about it.
All right, that sounds great. And I agree. I would like to have you all come and speak to the commission. Like Greg said, hopefully we will actually be in the commission room at that point.
So,
We'll go ahead and move. Oh, does anyone else have any other comments or questions regarding this? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to consideration of Kansas travel fair sponsorship. Chris, did you want to kind of go over this, or have Mrs. Wetstein go over it?
Sure, I can just briefly kind of explain what Susan's, I think, thought process was. And Susan, thank you for joining us. And certainly I can have you chime in here. It was your idea, and I think certainly probably articulated a little bit more effectively than I could. But I think the main premise is that over the years we have a number of organizations here locally, businesses, events, attractions, and given the pandemic that we're dealing with and the heartache that a lot of our businesses are going through, especially those in the hospitality industry and tourism funded, the idea was possibly the city go ahead and absorb the entire cost of those sponsorships this year, whereas normally those businesses would cover those costs themselves. And I think, similar to what we did at the last meeting, this is another opportunity that I felt like was at least worth consideration. If you feel like, hey, what we did last meeting, is sufficient, and we don't need to do anything further, then so be it. But I thought that it was a noble idea and worth consideration. So, and Susan, would you have anything you'd like to add?
Not really. I think you pretty much summed it up. I just would like to request that we could use the transient guest tax funds for the same entities that kicked in money for last year for the event guide to do so this year, just to help them out. Many of them have been doing this for years, and so it would just be it costs a lot of money to advertise in the travel guide or in any travel guide. If we tried to do like an ad ourselves, we would be looking at $10,000 to $15,000 for like a quarter of a page ad. I like I don't know if you all remember, this is, if you can see it, this is the event guide. It has several listings in it, which makes it best for us to, when you're traveling down the road and you have a travel guide, you're going to look at the communities that have a lot of listings and say, hey, wow, they've got a lot going on. And so that's what these, whether it's the restaurants like Trade Winds or an attraction like the it just helps showcase our community individually. So, and in the past, what we have done, the tourism committee had went to the commission a few years ago and said if we could pay for like the city's attractions, such as the lakes and the campsites, the Arthur Capper Memorial, the Walker Art Gallery, those kinds of things. If we could do those kinds of things in a first time listing, the city would, well, the transient guest tax would pay half of it as an incentive for them to try it and see if they liked it, and then they could pay full price from in the future. And so that has been kind of a building block way that we have established this program. But with the COVID-19 upon us, and nobody really traveling right now and obtaining those books, the state still absorbed the cost because they printed them, and we still hopefully will have a good tourist season upon this lift of, it phases down the road, I'm sure, but we would like to, I just think that would be a great idea if you would consider allowing us to use transient guest tax to further this by renewing their listings for next year.
One question I had, Susan, on Chris's report, it said it was going to be an additional cost of $1,680 from the tourism fund, but on this page with the green on it, I'm seeing that the listing pays $1,880. So is it $1,880 instead of $1,600?
What would have happened was, I'm sure that there were some that were first timers last year, so their listing would have been $40, and now it's $80. I would have to go back and look at my records from last year, but I have a feeling that's what the difference is that in the previous year they had been a $40, because like I said, that first time listing, the transient guest tax would pay 40 of that $80 and they'd pay 40. Well, now this year, it would actually go into the 80 column as a full-time listing is why that it's, otherwise, we can put it back into the city's $40 side, but it would all turn out to be the same amount in the wash.
I guess I'm looking at the paper with the green on it. And it's got this city pays $800, the list pays $1,880 for a total of $2,680. But in Chris's report, it said it at an additional cost of $1,680. Should that have been $1,880?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder also if this is, although it could be in the non-marketing, but I wonder if this is something we ought to run past the tourism committee just to get their blessing or their thoughts on it. I personally don't have a problem with it, just for the fact that I think a lot of the tourism funds are going to be unused or canceled events. So I think they're, at least right now, they're going to kind of have a little surplus of money. And I don't have a problem at all with helping these businesses get through this tough time.
I agree in terms of trying to help the businesses through the tough time. The one question I do have is the last time we talked about the transient guest tax, and I realized some events might be canceled. It seems like we were running pretty nip and tuck in terms of awarding those like we have in the past. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes. However, we have, I don't know whether you were given, like what our cash ending balance is. There's a page that I had updated for City Manager Weiner that shows the total amount that has been approved for funding to date is $15,843.81. So the amount yet available for 2020 is $44,156.19. However, Square Fair just canceled for this year. So there's the $1,674.57 that they've asked for won't be used this year.
Okay.
So that kind of adds back. We have not heard from the Greeley Smoke Off, the Chamber of Commerce, or the Lake Garnett Grand Prix, or the Friends of the Libraries Homes Tour. I would assume they're all waiting to see what, happens with.
Okay. Actually, just the fact that the Square Fair, if they've already canceled, that would almost be about the same amount. So that would be pretty close. That was the only thing. Like I said, I'm all about helping everybody out. I just knew that we were cutting it pretty close for all the events and making sure we were able to help everybody out if they're able to have an event. So that helps me. Thanks.
Well, actually though, this money doesn't come from that grant fund, the budget. I believe that because it would come out of our marketing, which we have $2,785 available after the Love What's Local campaign. So those would be the funds that would probably be taken. It wouldn't be taken away from the $20,000 allotted budget for the TGT grant program.
Okay.
It is page 8 in your packet if you're wanting to find that, what she's referencing.
Yeah.
I think that the only question that I had, just to clarify, so all of these businesses that total $1,040 would be part of what is being paid, as well as all of them on Green Page, right?
Well, that's actually up to you. Those were all, we always try to reach out to those that have not participated before and offer them the discount idea to see if they want to buy in. So it's up to you whether you would like us to include those if they are funded or not. I mean, typically at least the $40 of that 80 would be, I mean, they could still pay the 40, just like we've done the new listings before. That's kind of been a standard approved recommendation from the tourism committee. I can't remember exactly when that was, but it's been probably almost 10 years ago now.
So
but what I was really after was the ones that have, diligently paid, the ones that had paid last year that I was kind of more concerned about at this point. However, if a new listing wanted to come on board, they would pay their $40, unless you want to offer that to anyone who wants to participate this year to pay the full price.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. That makes a lot more sense to me.
Uh-huh.
And I feel good. I mean, I feel good about supporting this as well. I think it's a great idea.
What's the total requested, Susan? Is it the 2680 plus the 1040?
Well, I'm after the 2680, but if there was, like, if a first timer wanted in, they could pay 40 and we would pay the 40 through the transient guest tax. So typically I'll get maybe 3 or 4 new listings at a year. So I suppose I would have to, most likely stay under my budget of the remaining $2,785 in that budget line. But I don't see that as a real issue.
All right, so the motion that we're looking at making would be for the $2,680. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, do I hear a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve $2,680 as requested.
Is there a second? All right, great. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 3-0. All right, let me do again. I'm flipping through papers. Okay, so item C.
So much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, item C, consideration of semi-monthly bills and payroll. Commissioner Quinn, do you have any questions?
I got my questions answered.
Okay, Commissioner Cole.
I got mine answered earlier as well.
All right, great. So then I'll make a motion to approve the semi-monthly bills and payroll in the amount of $166,001.99. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Okay, informational items. A, city manager's report. Commissioner Gwen, did you have any questions?
Got them backwards here somehow. No, I don't think I did. Somebody had asked me today, and just to clarify, I guess the citywide cleanup is postponed, and hopefully we'll have the one in the fall. Is that the plan?
I certainly expect to have one in the fall. I hope to have one before that. I hope to still have 2 this year, but that's likely going to be dependent upon how quickly we can get back to pseudo-normal, as well as in what fashion the county is willing to work with us, because we really can't afford it unless the county is willing to partner with us on it. And so I'm really waiting on them to kind of tell us that, okay, we're able to take your the week of cleanup trash, and if we can do that, probably I'd say latest would be July. Any later than that, and we're probably just better off saying we'll just do the fall one. But I'm hoping to be able to still get one in sometime this spring or summer.
All right, thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Commissioner Cole?
I did. I had one. The Anderson County Hospital had questions about the gas rates.
So I've spoken with their new director of facilities. He's been there for, I think, about 8 months now, and is doing kind of an audit of all the St. Luke's hospitals that he's been placed in charge of, more than just Anderson County. They're kind of having a more corporate structure that they're having these people over multiple hospitals. And so in the course of that conversation, they were trying to come up with some efficiencies and realize that they use a lot of gas. And they're one of our largest gas users. And they are concerned about the gas rates and their bill. And so, they were wanting to know if we'd be willing to work with them and allow them to purchase their gas supply direct by wholesale, and then have us basically distribute it to them, transport it to them. I said, realistically, that's a significant hit to the city, as well as that, even if it was something that we were, willing to consider it, we're in a very difficult spot now, given that we just agreed to that prepay agreement for the next 30 years. Because we can't take a huge hit to our gas demand at this point and wind up supplying less. And he understood that, thankfully, and but it was still something that it's like, well, is there something we can do to try to figure out a mutually agreeable solution? And I did tell him that I'd spoken with you, the city commission, a couple different times about the possibility of some structural rate changes, increasing the base rate and lowering the usage rate. That would be something that he was certainly excited to hear, because they would be a huge benefactor from a higher base rate, pay more on a monthly customer charge, and end up paying less on usage because they're just such a high volume user. On the same hand, you're going to have other people in the reverse scenario that are low users of gas, especially right now in the summer months, spring, summer, that when your base charge is $2 and you use 1 unit of gas basically to heat your water heater, your monthly bill for gas is $10. And if we increase the customer charge to $20, $25 a month, to lower the usage charge down to $5, $6 a unit, whatever, that's going to significantly raise people's bills during the summer. It'll also lower them significantly during the winter, but it's certainly something to that I know I've mentioned before, and I told him that my hope is that we can get back in the commission room here before too long, and if that's the case, I'll let him know when he might be able to come to a meeting when we can discuss it. And he said he'd be more than happy to come down and have a conversation with you guys regarding the hospital, and he wanted to come, and so I let him know when we were going to have rate discussions again. But that's really what the intent of that conversation was, just that they have some concerns being a high volume gas user, what that gas usage rate is.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I did not have any questions actually beyond what Commissioner Cole asked. So Chris, is there anything else that you wanted to expound upon or just comment on?
Yeah, I can bring up a couple things. I first apologize for the length of my report. I know it was a pretty lengthy one, so thank you for bearing with me in getting through that. I would like to congratulate the community as far as our census response, our self-response rate thus far. We are doing extremely well, both as a county and as a community. Anderson County sits at 58.4% self-response rate as of today. That's 24th in the state out of 105 counties. We got a call yesterday. Susan actually took it, but of the state census director basically congratulating us and giving us props for community doing such a great job on that. So I'd like to certainly extend that to our community. And Garnett has a slightly higher rate than that at 62.3%. And so that's 96th in the state out of 614 cities. So we're doing fairly well, and that's a big deal, as we've discussed in the past, because that's heavily impactful for funding and representation in Washington and Topeka, and so we want to make sure we get everybody counted here. So I was also going to mention, I believe Kurt's here. As you may recall, here a couple years ago, we were able to get 2 vehicles really for the price of 1. The police department's in a similar scenario again, just in that they're needing another vehicle. We have, I think we're down to 3 vehicles at the moment, if I'm right, Kurt. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we have about half our fleet in the shop. But just maintenance is hurting us. And would like to put on our next agenda a public hearing, as I believe the next step. We've already been told essentially that, hey, we, like last time, where we're pretty much going to get the funding, but it's just, my concern, like last time, as well, when are we actually going to get it? I know it ended up being we got it, but it was a year and a half afterwards that we actually physically got reimbursed. So, it's a 50% or 55% grant, which is a good deal. Like I said, 2 vehicles for the price of 1, but in this case, they're looking at 2 vehicles and I believe some in-car computers, some in-car laptops. So that's really the goal here. But my plan was for the next meeting to have that on your agenda as well, because that's a step. We have to have a public hearing for it and then go through the process to give them a copy of the minutes where the governing body issues support for such a grant application. So I wanted to see if that would be, we have the funding available in the equipment reserve fund. It was our plan to replace the vehicle this year. And so that would be the game plan. And as we actually did receive we sold a vehicle here last year, I believe, and got a little bit of cash out of that to put back into the equipment reserve fund. It wasn't much. I think it was $5,700. But we'd be able to front the cost of 2 vehicles awaiting reimbursement. So that's really what we're looking at. So if the governing body would be agreeable, I'd plan to have that on our next agenda for public hearing and your approval, if so desirable.
Commissioner Cole, did you have any questions or comments?
I do not.
Commissioner Glenn?
No, I'd be all for that. I think even like last time, if it drags on to at the end of the game get such a savings is a good plan.
And I would definitely love to see what you have as well. If you don't mind providing some of the information, like the grant application or whatever you're putting into it, that would be great to see too.
Absolutely. So I'll make sure to get that on our next agenda. Also bring up, I know it was in my report, but the airport grant that we're looking at, got information back from the FAA today that they're actually going to allow us to include a little bit more than what our original thought was. Our original plan was to just do the fueling apron, but around 400 feet of taxiway that's right in front of all the hangars is also in pretty poor shape. It's in need of a mill and overlay. And so the FAA today said that, hey, just go ahead and include that in your scope and that'll be covered as well. So we plan to have an additional 2-inch mill and overlay done on the 400 feet of taxiway in front of the hangars. And that'll increase the project cost to around $375,000. They did tell us that there's around a 50-foot strip right in front of the city hangar and the fuel pump that's ineligible because it's considered to be, city purposes, and it's not eligible for that funding. So we're going to have to cover that cost. I'm still awaiting on what that's going to be, but my expectation is that that's not going to be an insurmountable amount that we can't cover. Additionally, as I put in my report, we're getting $20,000 to the airport from the CARES Act. So worst case scenario, we could put that $20,000 to be able to help fund that ineligible portion of the project. So I think it's definitely a big positive. We're making some improvements out there to the tune of $3.5 to $375,000, and really at no significant burden to our local taxpayer.
Is that, Chris, if I can interrupt, is that 100% funded?
It is 100% except for that ineligible portion I was referencing, that 50 feet.
Okay.
So we'll have to cover that. And as I said, I'm still awaiting what that cost is going to look like, but we're pretty excited to be able to make that happen because we weren't expecting to do anything at the airport this year, just kind of bank our money. But 100% funding for a project is a good deal. So as I also referenced, tomorrow morning is the first reopening committee meeting that we're going to have. Susan is also on that, as well as Chris Hicks from the city. And I was going to certainly extend to any of you, if you would like to listen in or participate, you're more than welcome to. I do believe that we have at least one county commissioner who's planning on listening in. I know that they were concerned about having 2 or more, given the potential COMA violations. But if anybody would like to listen in or participate, I certainly would love to send you that information. And I believe it's going to be a similar call to this. I don't think it's going to be on Zoom, but you could certainly call in, or if you would like to participate. It's at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So if anyone's interested in that, please let me know. We are, in addition to the signs, which Kimberly Spencer was the brainchild of that. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I appreciate her coming up with that and seeing it through. I know that took a lot of logistical efforts and planning, and Cody Getler, I think Cody's still on the phone with us here, I know called me and reached out to me as far as getting the city's permission to put that on there, and said, certainly we'd be happy to accommodate that. And I think that's a terrific idea. So I applaud Kim and Cody and the multitude of individuals who came together to really make that happen. That's a tremendous thing for our seniors, who I know have gone through a pretty rough ordeal this senior year of theirs. So Cody, would you have anything you'd like to add with that?
Yeah, Chris, thank you. I'm actually right here with Kim. There was a lot of logistical logistics to go into this project. Kim was the brain of the project. She had, well, Kim, do you want to tell them about what you had with Rutgers Photography coming up? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, basically, Rutgers provided us with the banners at cost for us to make it happen, and helped design all of the banners. And then I just reached out to the community, and the community has been fantastic, absolutely amazing. I'm just feel so blessed that we're here, because I just never in my dreams, when I decided to post it on Facebook, that we would have the support that we did. So we're very lucky.
Yeah, and on top of that, we reached out to Mike Blofis at Miller Hardware. He provided all the stakes for free, as long as we return them back to him. And then he provided, the ties and everything like that. And then we had just, about 10 different people that helped put up the banners on Saturday. And there's going to be a parade this coming Friday night. They're going to start out at the high school, and there's going to be a parade route. I think there's going to be, I think we talked with Glenn Platt, right, Kim? Didn't you talk with Glenn Platt about having a fire truck involved?
Yeah,
and
we've got the fire truck, and Kurt as well.
Kurt.
Everett Cox is going to be on the square playing music. I provided him with their class song. And we've invited, of course, all of the seniors to lead it with the fire truck. And then family and friends to follow if they want. If not, asking them to social distance on the square to watch them go around the square and then go back by their banners.
Yeah. So it was a great project led by Kim Spencer, and I think it's probably going to end up being a tradition from here on out. So thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you both. I appreciate it. And the only other thing I was really going to mention was Mrs. Colt, a comment you made, I believe the last meeting about the weed eater out at the airport. I told him to go buy a new one, but he insisted on rebuilding that one. He rebuilt the carburetor and says it's running like a top. So we've got a good weed eater mechanic on our hands out there, and Pat. So,
Yeah.
But
I just want to let him know we really appreciate everything he does out at that airport. So I'm glad to know however he can make it work. As long as he's got a weed eater, that's great. So thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, great, thank you. Informational item B, White House guidelines for opening up America. Chris, is there anything that you wanted to add to this, or was this just purely an FYI?
It's purely an FYI. The only thing I'd mention would just be that, I expect that we will come up with our own guidelines based loosely on, a template, similar to the White House's guidelines. And I know, for instance, Shawnee County came out with one that we were looking at. JD has organized this group, and we're going to meet on that tomorrow morning. And so, we're certainly going to try and come up with a good game plan for how to reopen things in a safe and quickly, as is responsible manner. So I think that hopefully we have a good conversation tomorrow morning. We got quite a few healthcare individuals on board with that, and we're going to have a good conversation and hopefully come up with a good game plan. Our goal, obviously, is if the governor opens things up as we expect next week, that we should be ready for that and have our own plan in place if she relinquishes control back down to the local level. So.
Wonderful. And if anyone is interested in looking at the document, it's called Guidelines for Opening, I don't know if you can see that, Opening Up America again. So, all right, that brings us to the end of informational items. Are there any other citizens to be heard tonight? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any need for an executive session? Great. Okay. Then you've come to the end of the agenda. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you for everything and for attending the meeting. So we will see you at the next meeting.